And welcome to another episode of DIOTALK. I'm Dio. Let's talk. My guest of the evening is the Energy Alchemist. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Melanie Huestis. I hope I pronounced your last name correct.
It was perfect.
Thank you, Lauren.
Woo-hoo!
Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am doing really, really well. Thank you so much for having me. As I mentioned when we were chatting earlier, my jam is human connection. There's nothing that I love more than just talking heart to heart to another human being. And you are so good at that. So I am excited to be here and curious to see where the conversation goes.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. Sometimes a little difficult for me, but I do my best in just trying to, it's very important to connect with one another, try to understand where, everybody has a story. I'm more than willing to listen if you're willing to share it.
I love that. And do you not find that when it is a little difficult, that's when the juicy goodness comes up?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean,
when you're willing to be vulnerable?
You have to.
Yeah.
Throughout this transitions journey, creating this platform, I've been vulnerable numerous of times. I've shared stuff. I've said things that, like, how do I say? Like, I don't hold myself into what I said in the past, because I try to document that I'm a person who's constantly learning, constantly evolving. I'm not what I was yesterday. I'm just trying to be. Exactly. I'm just trying to be who I'm trying to be tomorrow.
I had this exact conversation with someone else earlier today.
Yeah.
Yes. If we edit ourselves for fear of changing our minds later, we'll never stand in our truth in any moment, right?
Yeah.
So I'm all about showing up, making mistakes, and moving on.
I mean, you have to. How you live a life and where trying to seek perfection, it just becomes dull. I found that, like, imperfections is what is true beauty.
I agree.
Right? Like, you not knowing, like, it's so hard to explain, but yeah, I mean, you chase perfection, but it's like you do the best you can, and life is hard. You just roll with the punches.
For sure. And I think that like you said, in the imperfection, in the darkness, I love working in the dark, which a lot of people shy away from. But when we go into those dark places, the places that are a little bit scary, uncomfortable, that's where we find our truth, where we find our gold, where we find ourselves, right? Not in the, like you're saying, the perfect moments. Anyone can shine when everything is aligned and everything feels amazing.
Yeah.
But when the shit hits the fan, if you can find the beauty in that, life is just so much more enjoyable.
I agree 100%. And life is tough.
It is.
Life is extremely tough. Some, may seem some easier than others. Some others may have it more difficult, but in some way and form, in their own capacity, because each individual has its own world and universe.
Yes.
We can see, we could be looking at the same picture, but we all have different views. And and not to say who's right or wrong, but it is doing our best to put effort in connecting. Like, I see this, I would like to see your thoughts on it and understand where you're coming from, and say, I've never looked at it that. Or say, I understand, agree to disagree respectfully, but have a memorable conversation.
Yes. And that is so rare today.
Yes,
right?
Yes,
Being willing to hold differing points of views and still having that conversation.
Yeah.
So many people will shut down as soon as you disagree.
Yeah. Or
right?
they'll hit you with I love this one. For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's because I grew with my grandparents. So I was able to absorb a lot of wisdom, or just learn by others' mistakes, and where hearing them out. Because unfortunately, when we get to that age, nobody wants to hang out with us. Like, I saw it hand to hand, my grandparents. They'll call them when they need something, but, like, and not to sound judgmental, because sometimes life happens. But hearing them talk, and then growing up, and we're like, we would sit around. I grew up in Puerto Rico, so it's an island. Like what a bus stops is to here, over there, it's like a small brick house, cement
Okay.
house, right?
Yeah.
And we would sit there from, I want to say, from like 4:30 in the morning, waiting for the school bus, and
Wow.
throughout the day, come home from school, yet again we'll meet there maybe like 4 or 5 and sit and talk about life, and just hear one another's point of view, have a fun, sometimes make fun of another, but have meaningful conversation, memorable, although a lot of us went through our different paths in life, but we have those moments. And I think, growing up and, getting married, becoming a dad, I think somewhere in form, I missed that. I miss like listening to a radio,
Yeah.
having me in the radio used to have meaningful conversation. Now it's just ads and ads and ads and more
Yeah.
ads and ads. They'll say 30 minutes of free music, but it's like 30 minutes between ads, So I don't know. And obviously I grew up in an island where like it's advanced, but you have to go to like the major cities.
Right.
Like I was able to, play hide and seek, tag, be kid for a certain part, right? Here is like tablets, PlayStation, Nintendo, mobile device.
Hmm.
I remember my 20s, I had my first phone in my 20s. Kids have them earlier, like 10.
They do. Now, me being here, but I'm way older than you. So
Yeah.
I had the same experience, right? Like there
Hmm.
was no internet when I was a kid. There were no cell phones.
Yeah.
So I had a very similar experience,
Yeah.
which I think is really lacking today for sure.
Yeah. I remember my grandmother, she used to, come out the house and just yell my name. It's 8 o'clock. I know what that meant,
Yeah.
and I'm sure some places in America, I want to say a little bit more southern or maybe
Hmm.
suburban, you'll have a life like that. But in the inner cities, especially in the urban community, it's much different, and the culture's much different.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's definitely a lot going on in today's modern world, where I think that just be yourself, try to do your best. Failure is not always a negative thing. It's not whether you feel, it's how you feel, right? um I don't know, just values.
Yeah.
And I'm not to say that I'm right or wrong. It's just, initiating the conversation of how can we progress to do better, and we have to have that balance between present and past and future.
Agreed.
I don't know, you tell me.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. One thing that is on my mind though, when you say that, there's with the right and the wrong,
Hmm.
I don't actually believe in right and wrong at all. I don't believe in good and bad. I just believe that these are opinions or judgments that we put on things in order to make them either make sense to us or to make
Mm.
us feel safer or to help fit into the framework of our expectations. And when we can actually let go of that, I mean, again, if you can't fail, like you said, failure is not a bad thing, but what if we actually couldn't fail at all?
Hmm.
What if it was just a learning experience?
Yes,
And
yes.
something was positive, then great. And if something was negative, how can I learn from this? How can I do better next time? To me, that's
Yeah,
not a failure. It's not a bad thing. It's all of it. It's just all experience.
yeah, I agree. It's a learning curve.
Yeah. And that's, in my opinion, that's why we're here as humans,
Yeah.
is to experience the whole gamut, not just to come here and figure out how to get rich and how to be happy all the time and how to, be all blissful. That's part of it if that aligns for you. But I think the whole purpose is to experience everything, grief and pain and
Hmm.
sorrow and trepidation and challenges and joy and pleasure
Yeah,
and bliss.
yeah. I mean,
But if
it's a climax. It's you know, you need to go through those emotions sometimes just to, that's what makes you feel, believe you're alive.
Yeah,
Now that, like,
totally.
you look at AI now, it's a big thing, and how they read messages is emotionless.
So are you a fan of AI?
I could care less for it.
Okay.
I've never been into I like high tech stuff, use it if necessary, but I'm a really pen to paper or pencil to paper kind of guy.
I'm chuckling because I literally have an old school day timer with a pen. That's still how I book my appointments. It's how I
Yes.
keep track of everything. Yeah, I'm personally not a fan of AI. You cannot replace humans,
No,
that intangible essence.
no.
Like some people would call it a soul. Um, it's just not the same. And I fear that if we move too much into that artificial world, we're losing exactly what we're talking about, that whole point of being here, experiencing all of the emotions and all the sensations.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're becoming numb,
Yes. I mean,
right?
but in part of us in present time are numb with all these prescription drugs, and how do the drug industry prescribing left and right, the drug epidemic. Like, we're living that already.
You're right.
Imagine having somebody that does not know how things feel control us. God forbid, but like have that form of unpleasant uh moments.
Yeah.
You know.
But you're right. A lot of people are living that way.
Hmm.
And I think it's because we all have pain, we all have trauma of some sort, and we are not taught how to heal that, how to walk with that, how to share it, how to have a conversation with someone else
Hmm.
about it. And you're right. We choose ways to push that down. And drugs are a big part of that. I mean, prescription drugs for actual physical
Hmm.
pain,
Hmm.
but even illegal drugs, when the emotional pain
Hmm.
is too much, you use it to
Yeah.
numb.
Yeah. And I
So you're
think,
right. We're already down that road.
yeah, but it's also like it's the same thing, like, social media. When late night, you had a long day and you're like minus bliss, you just want to zone out and keep scrolling until you knock out. It's the same thing almost.
It
We're
is.
trying to remove something, replace it, that it's comforting, and just have it here.
Yeah.
I think balance balance
Everything.
is key, is everything.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that's why these conversations are so important because it's the opposite of numbing out,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
But you're embracing it.
Yeah.
You're embracing it. You're discussing it. A lot of these, like, I guess this is why I've haven't, in my opinion, I've had success going viral, or being basically going viral, because I refuse to have those conversations, because a majority of podcasts or what media presents is it's something negative, and where they want to ask you this, and the way he responds, that's gonna go viral and clip, but you're not having a conversation. You're just pick and choose what you want to say, or pointing the finger at somebody,
Right.
or talking about drugs, sex, you know, who who's a thug, who's like
Yeah.
it's entertaining. If it's like an ad, if the ad is there, it works. What are you, other than that, what are you doing?
Hmm.
And I just I don't know. I guess I'm old school.
I am old school, literally old school.
Yeah.
Oh, OG old school. Um, and yeah, it's almost like it's not almost like it is. We are losing our authenticity.
Yeah.
We are losing something I feel is so important is nuance,
Mm.
right? Like everything is like right or wrong, like we were talking
Yes.
about earlier. It's good or bad, it's black and white. And the beauty of humans interacting, conversations, all of this is that we are so unique and not
Yes.
one of us is the same if we can find I don't know if bravery is the right word, but I'll use it. The bravery to show up unedited as ourselves rather than following these cues and these templates that we are taught is how you become successful.
Yeah.
That's where the gold is. Like, that's true human connection. And we're taught not to do that anymore.
Correct.
Right? Like, don't say that. People might cancel you. I actually had a conversation with a client today where she has such a beautiful message to share, and she's afraid that someone's going to cancel her. So all of the people that could benefit are missing out because of that fear.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no matter what you say, like, take our conversation as example. Let's say half the people listening are going to be like, that was so boring. I didn't like that. And half the people listening are going to go, that was the coolest conversation I've heard this week.
Yes.
No one's right. No one's wrong. It's just their personal perception of two people having a conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
No matter what we talk about, someone's going to love it and someone's going to want to cancel us.
And that's life.
Exactly.
That's life. You know,
we can't be afraid of that.
100%. You know, and that's the thing. And we're like, you have individuals that say the most obnoxious, just blur things out. And that, because that goes viral and it's entertaining and it reflects what viewers want, something to numb them down and just, have a laugh and keep scrolling until they fall asleep. That will go viral. But they're not thinking deeper, and where that's attacking our freedom of speech. And meaning what really things that really matter are not being heard or discussed, rather now than, John said this stupid thing and that's more important. Let's go check him out. So what, again, where's our value as people?
Right.
Like the line of the line or boundaries, whatever you want to call it, of what's important and not important is very blurred.
It is. And I think that part of why people seek out that sensationalism is because there is an inherent lack of self-worth within our society because of the way society functions, because of the way we were raised, the messages we receive. And if I can look at someone else making an ass of themselves or putting their foot in their mouth or whatever, I feel just a little bit better about myself.
Yeah.
Right. And if I go and watch someone who is having, a truly authentic conversation or just being flawed openly, that doesn't give me anything to criticize, which then makes me go point the criticism towards myself. Right. If you're not in a place where you feel happy with yourself, happy with your life. I'm not saying that these people are flawed. They're not. Everyone is beautiful and perfect as they are. But it's this mindset. And I think the people that tend to consume that type of media, they don't love themselves enough.
Yeah. I agree.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I mean, if they did, you wouldn't see so much, mental breakdown.
Yeah. And why are we celebrating someone having a mental breakdown? That's something where we want to surround that person with love and support, and how can we help, and what led to this, and not pointing the fingers and adding to that.
But it's they're nice people. Like, one thing I've learned recently, being a nice person, it's somebody that, oh, you're sick? Oh, I'm sorry. Hope you feel better. So,
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but you finish what you're saying.
Yeah. And a kind person is somebody that, oh, you're sick, right? You're sick. I told you when it was ready to cover yourself. Now we got to go get you some medicine. We got to go get some soup. Like, it's his kindness is helping you. At the same time, he's almost ripping you a new one because you didn't do your due diligence, but I'm helping you.
Yeah.
And we live in a world with so many nice people.
Yeah, I totally agree. What I was going to say, you already went there. Yeah. Nice and kind, not the same thing.
But that's life right now.
Yeah. And probably life for as long as we have history to record it too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the human condition, like you said at the beginning, it's hard. Showing up and being a person right now is hard, but it was hard 50 years ago in different ways.
Yes.
It was sure as hell hard 500 years ago.
Yes.
In different ways. And Lord willing, if we are still around in another 50, 500 years, whatever, it's going to be really fucking hard in a different way.
And it's always hard. It's always been, it feels like it's always been that. It's like you said earlier, the experience. The more you go through it, the more like you'll tell yourself like, wow, I overreacted. It wasn't that difficult.
Yeah.
It's
And if
creating
we look,
yeah.
I was just going to say, if we look back historically, we have come through successfully 100% of the challenges we faced. We're still here.
Mm-hmm.
We're still breathing. We still have another chance to try again.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So it is challenging. It is difficult always. But again, part of the way I live my life and my philosophy that I try and share is that we can find beauty in the hard. We can find joy in the challenge. We can find the bliss in the pain. And when we can, I'm not sugarcoating everything because some things fucking suck, right? But when you can find something positive in that suckiness, you don't have to wait for the bad to pass to be happy, right? You can actually show up present, authentic, and joyful in all of the different experiences.
Yeah.
And since I've started living that way, I'm not holding on, waiting. I just have to get through this. I just have to wait for this to end. I just have to make this much money. I just, whatever. It's like I was constantly waiting to start living my life.
Yeah. And also
and
like,
now,
yeah, also like, we tend to make decisions out of desperation. Like, because we're so committed, we gotta pay our bills, we gotta raise our kids, we gotta get a better job, we gotta live in a safer, better neighborhood. Every decision we make, it's not, and not to say go with the flow, but you're so desperate, you're not really thinking logically. Your emotions are just, it's like you're drowning. I gotta breathe.
right.
And
Right.
and little do you know, you're putting yourself in a hole, you're putting yourself in a worse predicament that you really don't, you were trying to avoid.
Right. And I mean, we need to, being realistic, we have to consider things like how much money do I need? How do I put a roof over my kids' heads? How do I make my way into the safest neighborhood possible? Those are realistic things to consider. But I always suggest that when we are making decisions, that we take out money, always take money out of your decision, always take out fear, what if, right? And always take out obligation. And if you can take those three things out of your decision-making process, just while you find what is right for you, find that truth within, you will always have the right decision, right for you decision. Then you can come in, okay, well, how do I financially make this possible?
Yeah.
How do I do this and still fulfill my obligations? How can I manage my fear while I take this next step? But the second you let money, fear, obligation actually be an active part of your decision-making process, that's when you get caught in that cycle of just everything being total shit.
Yeah. And that's what majority of us are in.
Right. Because who's taught us to do it differently?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. And everything, even starting a business, investing in a business, essential for a business, opening in a business, everything is money. And what's ironic is that in everything that I stated, you have to almost calculate and structurize it. But if we put a little bit more thought, like the example you gave, we're probably able to think a little bit more clearer.
Yes.
And so that our outcome will be a little bit more stable.
Totally.
But we need veterans. We need veterans. Like, what is it, the millennials or Gen Z? I don't know. At this point, I don't know. But it's like, it's a lot of adult children.
Yes.
Adult children.
Yes. And again, it's because I'm not saying that these people don't want different things. They don't want to show up differently. They don't want to grow and evolve. It's that they are doing the best that is possible with what they were given. And that generation was given a lot of shit. Like they weren't taught how to stand up for themselves. They weren't taught how to make a decision alone. They weren't taught, what do you do if there's a problem? Like I see this in my kids. I have teenagers, well, a teenager, an adult child, and something inconsequential, like something small doesn't go according to plan. And they're like, well, what do I do? And my response is always, well, what do you think you should do? Like, think about it, but just like make a decision. Again, I don't believe there's good and bad. Pick something and try it. And either it's going to work, yay, you, congratulations, or you're going to fuck it up. And then, hey, now we know what not to do.
Yeah.
Let's try something else. It's like they've lost the ability to think for themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And again, I'm not laying blame. I mean, my kids have it too, so I must play a role in it to some part, to some point.
It's so difficult because I have a 6-year-old autistic son, right?
Okay.
Nonverbal, energetics, like the energetic bunny is in my house, right? And he doesn't go to school. He goes to what is this called? Behavioral therapy. Learn how to control himself, so he move on, right? And everything is structure. And it's like my question when we have these meetings with my wife, my structure. Okay, so what happens when because you could plan something out as much as you want to the T, and something always gonna crumble. Something's always gonna be missed. You can't live a life trying to control everything because you're gonna drive yourself crazy. So my majority of my time, my question is, so what happens when things doesn't go as structured?
Right.
They don't know. They don't know how to answer that. These past 2 days, it's been we have a little different schedule, and it's been crazy. 2 hours tantrum, he's going ballistic. It's difficult.
It is.
But this is like, okay, so I sit him down, me and my wife, try to let him, calm him down and think, hey, buddy, think, try to talk to him, almost develop a what is that? Critical thinking. And that's, we're trying to invest in him because he's going to get older, like we all are. And maybe hope he'll listen and will be a little bit more prepared. But it's like, you can't plan for everything and everything's always going to be the same. Things are going to happen. And you just got to try to readjust. Always readjust and readjust and readjust and readjust.
And talking about your son, it actually, so I have one of my daughters, she was diagnosed with autism when she was 18 months old. It was a misdiagnosis. Well, maybe it was. She definitely has a lot of the characteristics. But she has grown up with special needs. And like your son, needs to know beforehand what is going to happen, that sense of control. And what it really boils down to for her, and I suspect possibly for your son, is feeling safe. Yeah. Like she feels safe when she knows what to expect, so she can plan, so she can prepare. So sensory issues are a big thing for her. If it's going to be loud, if there's going to be people, she can create a plan. And as you're talking about your son, and I'm thinking, okay, that sounds similar to my daughter. But I also wonder if we can't say the same for adults who aren't on the spectrum, or adults who are on the spectrum.
You just took it out of out of my head, because I'm the same way.
We want to feel safe.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. And that's that control piece. If we can plan, if we know it's coming, and we have as few unexpected situations as possible. So it leads us into, how do we create safety within the unexpected? I mean, look at our world right now. This is not something that is rolling out according to plan. I
think, what's worked for me, and this doesn't happen often, embrace it. Embrace it. Like a week ago, I took my son was having a off day, and all he knew, he wanted to go out. He didn't want to be in the house. So like, not showering up, prepared, put some shirt, clothes, pants. Where we want to go? He put out these socks, and it's like color socks where we go jumping, called jumping air. He wants to go there. I'm prepared because I used to I like to bring like a book bag, water and stuff, because it should be mad expensive for no reason. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I don't like spending money like that. And you
Yeah.
know, this day I wasn't prepared, but readjust. A lot of kids there. Okay, how how are we gonna program this where you can have fun, and we accomplished it.
Yeah.
Came back home, made them knocked out. But it's also it's that having that readjustment, because sometimes things are not always going to go to plan. And I'm a big primer. I prime them a lot. Hey, we're going to school. Hey, it's time to take a bath. Hey, it's time to eat. Mom as well does the same thing. But it's gonna, like, when you grow up, you're preparing your son, your child, for the world, not for the world for your son. So, like,
Yeah.
as much as disability or whatever the case may be, like, you have to prepare them somewhat, because
Yeah.
out there, like, in the real world, nobody cares. And that's sad.
Some people do. Some people do.
Yeah.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. There's a lot of asshats out there.
Yeah, I agree.
Not disagreeing. But what I also think is there's a lot of really beautiful, kind-hearted people out there that are just doing their best.
Yeah.
And when you can find, like, everyone's got this little spark, right? Everyone's got it. And when you can touch on that, even with a stranger, they will respond with kindness.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people, I get into deep conversations everywhere I go. The
But you gotta
supermarket.
inspire them. You gotta inspire them. That's why I tell, like, a couple of weeks ago, I had a conversation with my little sister. Like, I told her, I don't care what people think of me, but I do care what I think about myself. So
Yes.
when I walk outside, I always want to present myself the best version of me, so that, like, the people you just spoke of having that bright light, see me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I inspire them to do them for themselves, and this is how it starts to spread. Everybody tries to show the best version, because we all have hard days, right?
Hell yes. Yes.
But I bet if despite of your hard day, despite of you feeling gray, you go outside, and no matter what happens, you're always pushing the better version of you. And let's say I'm walking beside you and I see that, I'm going to want to do that too.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I do. I absolutely get what you're saying. And I agree, but have a slightly different approach.
Nah, talk to me.
Do it.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Teach me.
So, well, it's not teaching, it's just sharing, right? But when I go out, and not even go out, but just, with clients, with
Yeah.
even on social media, all of it, I try to show up exactly as I am. And sometimes that is not the best version of myself.
Yes.
And I would rather show up, and I do this a lot, probably more than I need to. I'll even show up, like, on Instagram in my pajamas, because it's a day where I just don't want to get dressed.
No, I feel that 100%.
So rather than showing up as my best, and we might even mean the same thing in different words, I show up as my authentic self. And I feel, or I hope, that that gives other people permission that they don't always have to be at their best.
Yeah.
And they're still worthy of that conversation, and they're still worthy of showing up.
Yeah, I agree
And
100%. Yeah.
right. So I will always have that spark of kindness
Yes.
we talked about, but I might not be at my best.
I mean, but
And I think that's okay.
if that's your best for that day, that's great.
Yes.
That's great. There's no
Yes.
problem with that. I like to go out even in the winter with some shorts and hoodies.
So
You
you and my
know,
husband.
right? And that's my best too.
Yes. And I think that's the key. I read somewhere, and I can't quote because I can't remember where it was that I saw it. But if you have 30% to give that day, and you
Yeah.
give all of that 30%,
Yeah.
that is 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
So we do agree, and we do it in the same way. It's just, I think it's important to clarify that some
My
people, when they hear
my
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 best,
my explanation lacked detail. Obviously, you had details.
well, I'm just being nitpicky. But do you know what I mean? Because, and that's
Yeah.
part of the work I do, is really having people honor their worthy at every single place, right?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just at the best. And a lot of women, especially, when we hear our best selves,
Yeah.
okay, is my hair done? Is my makeup done? Is my outfit okay? Like, everything, especially appearances.
Mhm.
And I just I'm not here for that.
No, I
I'm not here for
agree.
that part of it.
I some days it's just, you're like, you just blah.
Yeah, but that's
Like,
cool, right?
yeah.
Let's
And
be
this
blah
is
together.
Yeah, and this is why I blame advertisement, because advertisement always wants you to be, spend that money, always look your best. But sometimes your best is in some shorts and shirt, and call it a day. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
I remember when I used to work at corporate offices and suit and ties, man. I was hoping just one day, just at least some jeans and a polo, and I'll be all right. It gets tiring. That's okay. That's normal.
Yeah, I remember I used to work in finance,
Mm.
and when I was going for a promotion, I asked my current boss, what can I do to get this promotion? Like, what advice can you give me? And he told me that I needed to put on lipstick and a push-up bra.
Wow,
This is in finance,
that's
right?
sexist.
But you know what? Well, yeah, it's sexist, but I did it
Did you
because I
get it?
wanted the job. I got
Yeah.
the job.
See,
And
see.
so I think not necessarily the same experience or the same industry as you before, but that where looks were everything. I
Yeah.
literally got a promotion based on what I looked like, not on the intelligence I had, the experience I had, the degree that I had. That didn't matter. And I think I've just pulled so far away from that operating system
Hmm.
because it literally broke me.
Yeah, it
And
does.
that's why I'm being a little nitpicky with the show up as your best, because I think that still triggers me a little,
Hmm.
right?
Gives you post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
No, I get it. Yeah, and that's one of the many reasons. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to put on my shoe sometimes and my shoes and get all dressy. I love that. But
But that's for you, right?
yeah,
That's
yes,
the difference. You
yes,
do it for you,
yes, yes,
not to get a job, not to make someone else like you.
yeah. I mean, every job that I've gotten to be a promotion and I didn't get it, I left. I quit.
Good for you. I love that.
I
You know your worth.
Yeah, and there's not ever going to be any money to, and that's growth. That's
Mhm.
growth. Before I started doing this like full time, and worked for myself. I was making 65 a year.
Okay.
I was never home.
Mhm.
I was never with my son, barely with
Mhm.
my wife. My wife, she's a real estate agent, so her career wasn't uh she wasn't really doing what she wanted to do because kids, and I grew up with women, so having that balance, having that, I want my wife to live her dream of work. I want that because it breaks sometimes. I'm not gonna lie to you. I get tired. But I
You're
saw,
allowed.
I saw how she wanted to embrace her full potential, and it was time. She was like she was just like was just kind of like she was ready to go, and that, and being back and taking people's crap. Oh my god. I try to be nice, but I have this temper. Like I don't like I I don't know. I grew up in a very difficult environment. So like, I'm a rough diamond. Like I've been told many of times. So like, when somebody uses their position to like try to push you around, I'm like a lion in a cage. I'm like just walking back and forth. And if you just, leave a snitch open for me to push that door open, that's it.
But is that a bad thing?
It's a bad thing because of the way I feel, I felt would not I would not be able to show the better version of me. And
Okay.
then I will be held accountable.
Okay.
I will be the wrong one. It's like, because despite you don't want to live in a world with good or bad, or bad, evil, whatever,
Yeah,
the consequences do exist.
totally do.
That's very implanted in anybody's life. Whether you choose to accept it or not, to each his own, but the consequences are there.
Yes, I agree
And
wholeheartedly.
in my situation, I just like it breaks me. It breaks me, and like I don't want to. Like I spend majority of my life, like people say, yeah, I wish I was a kid again. Not me, not
Yeah.
me, not me.
So is it that you have a hard time once you get that door open that the anger just kind of explodes?
It's self-awareness, like build up, and we're like, like I've always felt very confident in what I do and anything I do. At one point in my life, I was cleaning toilets. I'll tell you this much: I clean a toilet very good. I take pride in what I do.
I've done that before too.
I don't
And
care.
I too do a great job.
There you go. Right.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care. But I know that when I'm focused, it's like I have to get this task done. But when you work with other individuals that have gotten to certain levels and where their job is just to push people around, when it's like I'm a big believer. Give me my offer letter. I'll say from the ground. You better tell me description of what I do, because if it's not for me, if it's not there, I'm not gonna do it.
Right.
And I could really take initiative, help out. I'm a team player. I'm a great team player. But now when my value is your sit back in a chair and relax. Well, I'm very family oriented. I didn't go with my mom or dad. So like having my wife, my kids, even though they drive me crazy, I need them around. They could be downstairs. I'll be in my office. That's the reason I got married. Right. I want them around. And if I can't access that, that's already going, that's already, like, it's not comfort, it's happiness.
Okay.
I like to feel happy. I don't feel it often, but I this is why, you get a job, you take a job that you don't want to provide for your family, right? There's certain sacrifice. And I can't see my son. Nah, it's a problem. It's a problem.
You have your priorities straight. That's what it is. And
go ahead.
Everyone has the ability to do that, to create priorities and stick to them, no matter what your circumstance. I think a lot of time people don't set priorities and then complain because they don't have time with their children. They don't have time to golf if that's their thing. Whatever it is, that is their passion, to sing, to dance, to garden. But all of us have the ability to prioritize and to make time for those things.
Yeah.
And so, I feel like that's what you're saying.
Yeah. And in this situation, it affects me because now, hey, I told you I'm not going to work on Saturday. I told you this. You want to give me, you say we got a project at Friday, 3:00, and it starts at 7 a.m. and it's Friday, 3:00 when everybody's leaving early. No. No. And then you start asking why and challenging them. And it's really just common sense. And if I oh man, I'm just insane. I adapt. The perfect example, I adapt to any situation, especially to these jobs. I adapt. And I don't outsmart them. I know my value, and I'm always researching, educating, seeing. And it comes to a point and we're like, this is what you should do now. This is how we're going to do this. So now, instead of looking at me as an asset, now I'm looked at as someone that I got to watch out. Who's going to take my job?
And is that how people respond to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, me being a jerk sometimes, I'm very, I'm very, I tell it like it is. Sometimes people can't handle that. And people told the same thing to me, but that's life.
I gotta say, Dio, I would love to see you angry.
No.
I want to see this.
No.
Honestly, anger is my favorite emotion.
No.
Yes, I love it when people get angry. I love getting angry. I embrace my anger.
No.
We have been taught that anger is bad. It's not. It's so good. The problem happens when we put that anger on someone else. When we blame, when we yell, what I used to do is throw shit at my husband when I got mad.
My wife just likes to slam shit.
Right. So that is an inappropriate expression of anger. And because we have associated those types of reactions with anger, because again, we haven't been taught how to properly embrace and release anger.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to those places, but anger itself is just an emotion that facilitates change. Like when you get really angry about something, you're going to do something about it. Like that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Give me that little inch. I'm going to slam the fucking
Yeah.
door open. I'm going
And
to take charge.
that's not where I want to go. You know?
Right. But what I'm saying is that when we can embrace and harness that energy of anger into positive action, it's like, hey, give me that inch. I'm going to slam the door open. And then things are going to change for the better.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a negative outcome when we express our anger.
Correct.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I want to see you angry because I can tell you're a powerful man. You have a beautiful heart. And I think that if you embraced your anger, you could facilitate massive change. I know you could.
I do agree, but no, because you got like growth, self-awareness, right? Like
Right.
I enjoy chaos.
Okay. So
I
tell me more about that.
I 100% enjoy chaos. I like to push that envelope, if not kick the door open. But it's not always good. It's not always safe. It's not always the right thing. You know, like you gotta move sometimes like you're playing chess. You know, your cards cannot always be shown or seen. You know, you have a move. You, in order to you accomplish something, you gotta move a certain way. And you know, as much as anger, it's rage. It's a beautiful energy that people either feel you or respect you. Um, it it derails you, it blinds you.
It
And
can.
exactly, and you become predictable.
So
And I refuse to be predictable.
but what if you could lay all your cards on the table, let everyone see every single one, and still trust that you were capable, resilient, smart enough to win that fucking game?
3 years in the making. DIOTALK. Welcome. Literally, DIOTALK. 3 years in the making.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't have to hide your cards to have control. I mean, it's one way of going about it, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But for me, it's just, it got exhausting doing that.
Holding back.
Yeah. It was effective, but it was exhausting to me. And honestly, I just wanted to be seen and I just didn't want to have to pretend.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of dropped all the cards. Like there they are. And it was an adjustment period, but now I don't have to use energy for that. And I find that nothing, I don't want to say nothing bad, but nothing insurmountable has resulted from that choice. And it's one that works for me, but it's not going to work for everybody.
Correct. No, that's admirable and respectable. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've got a point in my life, like my anger has helped me to survive.
I can feel that as you say
the
that.
will, it's will. It's, growing up, being alone, literally fighting my way to just be surround people. Like it helped me overcome certain life neglections, right? Or troubles.
It kept you safe.
Yeah.
It kept you safe. And like we were talking about earlier, right? We have these things, we were talking about drugs at that point, but we have resources that we can use to help us stay safe. And I grew up in an abusive household, and anger was a big hurdle for me to get over. So I truly can relate to that. And my anger, when I could explode it onto other people, that kept me safe. It was like, I'm going to attack before you can attack me. Right.
Yeah.
But I can see that you don't need that.
I don't want to.
You're in your power.
Yeah.
It's so evident to me.
Yeah. I don't, you focus on energy, right? And I feel like,
yes,
karma is a real thing.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's an energy or not, but it's a real thing, and it has flourished into my life. And we're like, I'm not gonna ignore who I am. I don't. I know who I am.
Yeah.
The many times I feel failure and unhappy is because, like you said, I'm holding back who I want to be.
Yeah.
But I want to get to a certain place, and I know if I get to, in order to me to get to that place, I can't be the person that I should be. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think I would need a little more clarification on that.
All right, so like you say, just let it out, be free.
Right.
Then it's a big thing in world, and where like especially where I grew up, you either feared or respected, right? Fear, it's cowardice. No one will ever do something to you, front. Everything has to be planned in the back. But then, growing up, respect, that means if they are willing to do something to you, they're gonna let you know, and they understand they're gonna take a risk.
Okay.
Or they won't, and
Right.
they'll cherish that relationships. And
Yeah.
I feel like we live in a world with a lot of cowards, and I need to make my way or cement my legacy or build what I build out of respect, because that creates value.
Yeah.
That creates this conversation here
Yeah.
to have. But if I choose the way and where I don't know how to act, I just act impulsively and not think, or the outcome that might be not good and consequential. Now that I'm a parent, and the way how he's going to look into me and thinks that's okay, or be a whole dick to my wife, my family, and they slowly create resentment towards me, because that's what that anger eventually will be. Because when my anger, I'm not logical. I just don't give a fuck.
Right now. Yeah. No, I hear you. And I also believe, even for you,
Mm-hmm.
it can be different.
It can. I just haven't
It
gotten
can.
there. I haven't got.
Well, it's a
Uh,
fucking journey until my
uh,
belief, until the day we die. That's when we've learned everything. We're done. We die.
yeah.
We're still breathing. There's still stuff to work on.
I haven't got to that chapter yet in my life. You know.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
still trying to be a dad.
Isn't that hard?
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. Terrifying. Especially growing up without a dad.
Yeah.
And not to say I know him. I don't know him.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's terrifying, especially like special need. And where like I say the world's cool because one time I was at the park, and they yelled at me and said, put your son on a leash. Do you
Oh,
do you know how hard I had to fight myself, not to put my son in the car, turn it on, leave it running with the AC, and just go, do something
yeah.
radical, because it's
Oh,
and you understand. I don't have
I'm feeling you.
and so
And
much. Yes,
I wouldn't have
so
kept cool in that situation.
yeah,
Nope.
and so much other things. Just being a man in general. Business failing, marriage failing, financial failing, education failing, family failure. Like so many things. Like it's hard being a fucking man.
I agree. And I talk
And
about this a lot. I
yeah.
really do. I think that there are challenges for women and for men, but I think men really get a bad rap. And it's like you guys are expected to do all of these things, but
Mm-hmm.
then don't show emotion around it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't get too stressed so that you get angry, or don't get
Yeah.
so overwhelmed that you get sad and cry, because that's not being a man.
Yeah. Be a little
Like,
sissy.
right? Like, how are you supposed to go through life like that? And yeah, I think that again, both men and women need healing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I believe it's more acceptable for women to ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more acceptable for women to receive it. People are more willing to give it to women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that guys deserve that same support and care.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to, and here's this thing, and where like I try not to dabble too much into it, because I don't think it's a competition like people seem. Man had it worse or women had it worse. Like, I think we're just people, we're just human. Why can't we just, you're going through something, hey, here's a hug, or you're okay? Why does it have to be, and that society, divide and conquer.
Yes.
The more we're able to be divided, the more, all right, I got this area, I got this north, and that's something I do my best to just, and I fail horribly, because I'm not perfect.
Because you're human.
Yeah,
Welcome to the club.
yeah, and we all go through it. We all go through it. That's fucking life.
It is. But we need more men, more people like you being willing to talk about it. That gives permission to others.
I agree.
That's needed. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for listening. I think with that is, it's just, we do not, we know how to talk about sports, we know how to talk about business shit, we know how to talk about several other things that we can't discuss. But when it comes to ourselves or what we feel, especially like, reading and researching, a lot of men say you just push them down, but we also don't know how to describe what we're feeling.
Yeah.
And the only really feeling we able to comprehend, which is very well documented, is our anger.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
we're not as savvy as women are, because women, they get their period, they start learning emotions for such a young age, and it's so overwhelming. Imagine a man in world, he probably has those feelings, but he's been told to just put him down,
right,
and not, because men have HDHD like crazy, right? So we ignore them for years. Then you get married, and then you have children, then you get a job, and then slowly but surely it just starts like, your arm starts fuming from your pores, because it starts releasing, and you don't know what it is, and you never knew. And because,
how could you?
Yeah,
You were taught not to feel it, let alone how to deal with it in a healthy way.
And because you're so used to pushing it down, you don't even know how to describe it. So how would you sit there and tell your wife, when she asks you 20 million times, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, no, I'm not fucking okay. Just leave me alone. Give me a fucking beer. I'm leaving. This is how we tend to, right?
Yeah, that's my husband and I early in our marriage. Exactly what you said.
That's me and my wife always.
Okay.
Because
so
I like my space though. Put that on me. But you get what I'm saying.
I do.
How will we know?
Well, you can't. And my husband and I, we've been married for over 20 years now. And we were both, really fucked up when we got married. And I think that was the safety, right? We felt safe with each other because we accepted each other with all of these flaws and all of this trauma. But we've worked through it. And now we're at this beautiful place where we literally don't get angry anymore. When I ask him, how are you feeling? He actually will tell me. And sometimes it's followed by, I don't want to talk about it. That's fine. I'll respect that. But like you said, your wife asking you 20 times, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Like, guilty. That's me over here. Right. And it's just because we want to connect and we want to support you. But like you said, when you don't have the vocabulary or the understanding to express it, then your wife probably feels cut off. She's trying to reach out and connect, and she feels cut off. And then that creates disconnect, distance between you.
Yeah.
But if we can learn how to communicate in a different way, being angry, being afraid, being upset, it actually brings you closer as a couple.
Yeah, I agree.
But we're talking more than 2 decades of him and me working on this. It's not an overnight thing.
I'm working on my first decade. I got too many,
Yeah. So
you know?
you're going to get there. You will.
Yeah. It's a process. Everything's a process. And, you know, but to get to here, you know, how many times bump and bruises and, you know, going through that monotony, just trying to understand and it's growth and you want to grow. And also you know, like if you have, like I was speaking to this gentleman last night. He's a therapist. He specialized with anxiety, but also like with couples. You know, he was saying you get to a certain age, you have to have valuable relationships with people. Like if you know, I have friends and I need advice or vent something, right? They're supposed to be there, have you know that valuable camaraderie. Like I don't have that. I can imagine your husband doesn't have that either, right? And if you have the wrong relationships and really try to talk about how you're feeling, it's like, hey, just drink a beer. Oh, let's go to a strip club. Oh, let's go do something that's not talking about how you felt, right? That's a waste of relationship.
Yeah.
And they're not bringing value to your life,
Yeah.
you know?
I do.
So it's very difficult. Then, you know, you have men that are just scared because, you know, the women they grew up are not the best example. And I know a lot of men that like you know, that their mom were, you know, riding horses every other day, you know, leaving other men because they have money or wasn't a provider. And it's built up this insecurity and we're like they can't maintain relationship. They don't know how to identify what's a healthy relationship, what's not a healthy relationship. Uh
Right.
they don't intimacy, you know, when they're in a relationship, they don't do great. But when it's somebody that's just passed around, they're more capable to do something about it. So it's all these factors that contribute to unhealthy mental state for a man or for a woman.
Agree. We're all receiving unhealthy templates, examples,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, there's very few. Think in your life of all of the people, couples, whatever that you know, and how many of them are truly happy in healthy
None.
relationships.
None.
So again, if no one's going to teach it to us, we don't have an example for us to witness and learn. Society is telling us that that's not what's actually important. It's about the sex and the money and, you know, all of that. How are we going to figure it out? Other than having these conversations and
Correct.
being honest, how are we going to figure it out?
I don't know. I'm still trying to, you know, I do my part. You know, it's a
You
rare
are.
occasion, you know, rare occasion, but you know, it's good to have them. You know, my wife probably watched
Mhm.
this, so maybe she'll learn a little bit more about me. You know, I'm not just
I hope so.
you know, but
Maybe this is the thing that takes you guys to the next level.
yeah, God
Maybe this is
willing.
the conversation starter,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, 100%. But you know, we have to have those conversations. You know, and it's scary. You know, it feels a lot of insecureness.
Mhm.
Not easy, but you know, it's what I've learned. You know, and I'll use my you know marriage as an example. Is you know, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yes.
And where you know now you're just in sync, and
Mhm.
where you know like you just look at one another without saying anything, you already know how he feels.
Mhm.
Like, oh, okay, I'll leave you alone. I'll come back later, or just to realize it's not that serious.
Right. So can I offer one tip?
There you go. Go ahead.
One tip on this. Coming back to the safety, the reason why it's scary is because in the past, when you were younger, when you were open about your emotions and vulnerable, something unpleasant would have happened. And again, it could be personal with your family of origin, it could be society, it could be some kid making fun of you at the schoolyard, the bus stop you were talking
Yeah.
about. But we have these early experiences that get embedded within ourselves that it's not safe for me to be totally open, honest, and vulnerable in
Mhm.
relationship. But right now, you are safe.
Yeah.
And you have to remind yourself. So when I'm going to have those conversations and I'm like, whoa, this feels a little scary to me, or this feels a lot scary to me, I just remind myself I'm not that little girl anymore.
Yes.
Right. I am a
Yes.
grown woman who is actually safe. I can take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And just reminding myself that before I have those conversations makes them a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree. I remember a point in time I had to tell myself that I'm not that little kid no more. I'm not in that place and where everything was survivor mode.
Right.
You
But
know?
your body doesn't know that, right? When we
Mhm.
grow up in neglect and abuse and trauma, and again, sometimes in perfectly beautiful, healthy family relationships, but at school we got bullied. Like we
Yes.
all have something, right?
Yes.
All of us do. That our bodies remember that and hold on to that. And all that's really going on is it's our bodies and our ego trying to keep us safe. So until we remind the body what the brain knows, the body's going to keep reacting. It's an automatic response, right? You get sweaty, you get nervous, maybe you get jittery, you feel a little bit nauseous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a physiological response.
Yes.
So you have to keep reminding the body. And when you remind the body often enough, it creates a new framework, a new pattern. And then it gets a little bit easier, and a little bit easier, and a little bit easier.
100%. How does your energy when you practice help you and others? Like, how can people learn it? Because energy is real. Like
Yes, everything is energy.
one of the things that I state and stay after time on the podcast and in my own house is that, I dislike how I don't like people coming to my house.
Okay.
Simple fact is because people attach certain energy and they come here, and if this is a place of peace or tranquility, or it represents something similar to that, they're like, it'll stay here. Now that person will go and feel some type of refreshness, and just that energy stays here, and now it just goes around.
You got to clear that shit out.
Yeah, and
Don't let it stay.
building trouble, building animosity, building this, building that. So it's 100% real.
It is. It is. So how I have done it in my life and how I help other people, in my opinion, there's three main things you need to look at. And we've been talking about them kind of interdispersed throughout our conversation. But the first one is healing our trauma. We all have some ingrained belief, whether it's ancestral patterning, it can be past life stuff, it can be this lifetime, but we need to heal that so that we aren't triggered. So that when we get angry, it's not an explosive response. It's a more calm, logical response, that kind of thing. And I also believe that we all have the ability to connect with spirit. We have gifts that have been given to us that are more than just the physical sense, an energetic sense. I think embracing and learning about that is a vastly untapped resource. And then learning to feel safe being yourself, that authenticity piece. And so those are the three areas that I work at. If you feel comfortable showing up as yourself, you no longer have those triggers from the bad stuff that happened to you, and you trust in something bigger than yourself, you become unstoppable.
Yes.
And it's not that shit doesn't happen. It always will. Like we've been talking about, life is really challenging. But when you show up from that energy, nothing feels as big as it used to. You have whatever it is that you need within yourself to make the choices that will bring you forward in positive ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So that's kind of my approach. And it's all energy is multifaceted. There's different levels. So we have physical energy, we have emotional energy, we have mental energy, we have spiritual energy. And I just work on all those different planes and coming to those three facets. And then whatever you do from there, I mean, that's your choice, right?
How did you stumble upon or learn about energy?
So I was born talking to spirit.
Oh, that's
dope. I didn't
I wish I would have started out with this question. That's super dope. I'm fascinated by those things. That
everybody didn't live that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I became a teenager. Like I would walk to school with my spirit guides and I'd be talking to them. I was the weird kid. I mean, let's admit it. I was walking along, talking to myself all the time. I didn't know that wasn't normal. And then it wasn't until I was a teenager and I would pull tarot cards, tell people's futures, and be like, oh, your grandpa's here, at a party, and your grandpa says hi. And the reactions I would get as a teenager very quickly led me to realize, oh, this isn't normal. Not everyone experiences life in this way.
Wow.
So I've never not had this. And how I operate today, how I teach today, is based on literally a lifetime of experience. I'm almost 50, so half a century of lived experience, as well as having the blessings of being taught by different people, different ways of looking at things, different ways of working with energy. And it's just kind of been an evolution of me learning to heal myself and then sharing that with others. So I didn't wake up one day, I'm like, I want to be a medium, or I want to be an energy healer, and then work towards it. It's just who I am.
It was crazy that I grew up with a lot of individuals like yourself, because it's an island. I grew up with a lot of amazing people that did that. Some were too severe and like, bro, you need to stop. And others, beautiful, amazing intentions. So I somewhat of from I do get what you're saying.
Well, you have the ability to do it. I believe we all have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
But like everything else we've been talking about, if nobody tells you that, if nobody guides you on how to do it, how are you going to know?
How did you realize that? Was this the conversation that was passed down, or you just like, how do you realize what you were doing and what it was?
Again, it was when I started sharing more openly. The older I got,
okay. Yeah.
The older I got too, the more clear the messages would come through. And it was when I was around 16 is when I started reading tarot. I realized that I could actually, I actually remember the first day it happened. I was doing tarot cards with my girlfriends, and my one friend said, oh, my boyfriend has like a crappy situation. I wish you could do a reading for him. And I said, okay. And I just started writing, and I wrote down what was going on in his life, what people were involved, what the situation was, how we could shift it. And I gave her like this big piece of paper, and I handed it. Didn't even know the guy's name, never met him before. And she came back the next day and she said, everything you wrote down was right. And at that point I went, oh, like I wasn't even thinking about it because it was an automatic response. And that kind of clicked for me that there's actually something here that can benefit people.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize, because again, no one sat me down and said, this is your gift, this is how you use it. It was just me living my life and playing around, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that for me was the big shift in realizing this can be useful to someone else, and it's not just my experience.
Do you have one enjoyable memory and where your gift was able to help somebody that really needed it?
This honestly is every day in my work now.
Wow.
I am so lit up about what I'm doing, and specifically the people that choose to come to me. Mm-hmm. So I don't heal people. Let me be very clear about that. I am a conduit. I am a helper. People heal themselves. But the more authentically I show up, the more crazy I'm willing to look in talking about this stuff and sharing my experiences, it starts to attract a different type of person towards me. Someone who is more open, someone is more willing to take chances, to take risks, to go to those dark places.
Yeah.
And that's where the magic happens. So there is nothing better than meeting with someone who is just in a really bad place, not feeling great about themselves. That's probably the biggest thing. The clients who come who really don't like where they are, who they are. And at the end of the hour, they can see their own beauty. That to me, there is nothing more fulfilling than being present to witness someone having that experience and healing themselves.
That's awesome.
It really is. And like I said, I'm not taking credit.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's just, that's how it's just really beautiful to witness. And that's a gift that is kind of like a side effect of what I do.
Yeah. I met one. I had this gentleman on called Daniel Jackson. He was a spirit mediator, and he was saying in the show how they would just go through him and deliver messages. I find it so like fascinating, amazing to live a life like that, where you're able to talk to those who just want to share valuable information.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all it is. Like, you never know what you needed to hear.
Yes.
And it's right there.
Yeah. And I always say that I am, I'm a medium with a big heart and a mouth to match. That's kind of my tagline. And I say it because I don't pull punches. I am not one of those, oh, love and light, everything's awesome. I tell it like it is. If someone's coming from the other side to get my attention, to give you a message, I'm going to tell it straight. Right? Like, otherwise, I'm not doing a service to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll always bring that through. And some people love it and some people hate it. But if that's not your jam, don't work with it.
That has to be like, because he's the same way too. He said it almost same as you're saying. Like like he's basically like, these motherfuckers are coming over here. They're trying to give you a message. Just get your shit together already. Like he's over it. He's over it. But I just like, it's some realness in that, because like a person wouldn't just get worked out for nothing.
Mm-hmm. And
especially it's like when somebody just annoying you and you're stalking and you're just like, oh my god, like it doesn't happen just to happen.
There's purpose.
Yeah.
There's love. That's what at the center, it's love. Anything that comes through, even if it doesn't feel that way. And one thing I would love to reiterate is that every single person who is listening to this, you have loved ones, you have guides, you have spirit helpers that want to talk to you, that want to connect. You don't need me to do that. You can do that yourself, but you have to give them permission. As humans, we have free will, and they can't help us unless we ask. So just ask for the help, ask for the love, ask for the support, and your life can change just with you doing that one small thing. You might not hear a clear message. You might not see a spirit, right? It's different for everyone, but you will feel that energy of love and support around you.
Have they, and I'm just asking this because I asked him the same question. Have they ever asked you to come join you in one of those like ghost hunter shows or some shit like that? Me
personally, no. Yeah. I've never been invited. I would do it because I love that shit. I love the scary stuff. I go to dark places. I work in the lower realms. I work with curses and hexes. And when I say work with, I don't do them because that's not what I'm here for. Mm-hmm. But I'm doing that for other people. I have yet to meet something that scared me. It's all energy. That's what it is. And again, good and bad, that's just an opinion. It's all energy. So yeah, I would totally go to a haunted house. That's dope.
Melanie, it's been an honor talking to you. Yeah, we must have to do this again.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me and for trusting.
Thank you for having an amazing, awesome, genuine conversation. Yeah. I totally enjoyed myself.
Me too.
Before we go, please tell the people where they can find your service, follow you, just seek.
Sure. There are 2 places that you can find me. And one is my website, melaniehuestis.com. There are not a lot of Huestises out there. I'm pretty easy to find. And on Instagram at Melanie Huestis.
Boom. Make sure you go check on her, go follow her, go support her, go, inbox her, ask her for help, because he's more than willing to help you. And not a lot of people do that. But make sure to go on DIOTALK TV on YouTube, like and subscribe, go follow me on Instagram and on Threads at Mr.Dreamspartan. I'm out, guys. Have a good night.